and welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty Blinderman with the heavy bangs again, Becca. It's summertime, guys. It's humid. My hair just, no matter what I do, I'm doing the best I can. Just what we always do. Yeah. Welcome. This is ADHD Friendly, where everything I do is really intentionally about creating more ease in your life with ADHD friendly tools and resources and tips. And this episode's no different, Becca.
Yeah.
Trusty assistant Becca here once again to help support my focus and my energy. So I'm not just talking to a computer, which is really draining. All right, so welcome. This is episode number 92. 92. Let's get right into it. Let's give you a quick overview. What's coming up? So I'm going to have a celebration on my fourth child today. Mentioned this before, but she got bumped. So I'm going to celebrate it today. And then I have an ADHD friendly tip. I'm calling it moderator versus abstainer, which is interesting because that's another way of kind of supporting yourself to figure out which one you are, which also is what our main topic is structured for as well. And that's about starters or finishers. So going to learn a little bit more about yourselves in today's episode and hopefully be able to take that information and use it to support yourself to make decisions that align more with how you're wired. So you're leaning into what works for you and supporting yourself around what doesn't, which is always what we're trying to do. And then as always, at the end of the episode, I will highlight what's coming up next week. Let's start with my celebration. Guys, I always start with the celebration because it builds energy. It just creates that connection to positivity. And that's something I do very intentionally with my clients and all of my coaching sessions. And I do it here because it supports me. And I always want to highlight the importance of capturing celebrations because our brains are wired for negativity and we tend to hold on to all the things that aren't working. So we need to look for those little gems and hold them up. So this one's a little, it's now middle of July. It's a little kind of older celebration that I'm bringing in, but I didn't celebrate it yet. So it still feels very sparkly. So my youngest graduated from high school. Yeah. I know. So I've now, along with my husband, don't want to diminish the partnership there, but we have now raised our 4 children and all of them have graduated from high school, which is a huge, at least in our family, our mindset accomplishment. Like, I am so glad that we're here to celebrate and we did it. And almost as big of a celebration. And if you have ADHD and listen to this, you will get this. I'm not at all minimizing the accomplishment of all 4 of my kids and all the work they did and all the structure we had to put in place, which wasn't easy with our brain wiring to get them to the place where they could graduate. But almost as big of a celebration is we supported our daughter to write her thank you notes and got them in the mail because we're still old fashioned, write a hand thank you note if you get a graduation gift, got them in the mail within 30 days of her graduation. So I think that meets the Miss Manners criteria. It's a celebration in our household that they're done. I can't tell you how many times over the years my kids have written their thank you notes, given them to me, and I didn't mail them. Becca, I mean, like literally I'll find them like a year or 2 later. I'm like, I never mailed these. I can't believe it. And they didn't know because they wrote them, gave them to mom to mail them, and I never got them in the mail. So my celebration is not only the graduation, but the thank you notes got written.
They got sent out.
I've always been the mailer, which is not my strength, but I did it this time, got them in the mail. So I'm learning what works over the years and leaning into doing that more intentionally. So we got it done. So that's my celebration. All right, let's see that. Got some good energy going. Ready to dive in now with our ADHD friendly tip for this week. All right, so this is something, again, I got from Gretchen Rubin from her book Better Than Before. I've had a lot of Gretchen Rubin things lately. Gretchen. I know, she's amazing. So she shared something that she called moderator versus abstainer. And what I'm going to do is share some information about each and ask you just to explore which one describes you. So Becca, I'm going to kind of do this. And then at the end, I'm going to ask which one you are to see if you have a strong sense if you're a moderator or an abstainer. You might already know from the word. I didn't know from the word. I had to hear the examples. All right. So these are examples. You're an abstainer if this resonates for you. So abstainers find it easier to give something up entirely than to do it in moderation. If abstainers try to use moderation, they waste a lot of energy justifying why they should or shouldn't indulge in something. abstainers have trouble stopping something once they start, and they aren't tempted by things that they've decided are off limits. So if they decide that's it, I'm not having that anymore, they're no longer tempted because they've decided they're not having any of it.
Huh.
So that's like an abstainer. I think of it as all or nothing, which is more familiar in our ADHD brain. Moderators, on the other hand, find occasional indulgences heighten their pleasure. They get panicky if they think about never having something again or never getting to do something again. So that's that kind of, like I can't tolerate the idea of nothing. And if they try to abstain completely, they feel trapped or rebellious or rebellious. So do you have a sense of which you are, a moderator or an abstainer?
I think I'm a moderator.
Interesting. I am an abstainer, so we're very different.
I know, because I think I can do everything in moderation and I'm good.
And I can do nothing in moderation. It's all or nothing, which is what I love about, and the reason I'm sharing this, is I love when somebody takes an example of something I've noticed in my own life or I've heard from my clients, and they put it into easily accessible language. And that's what this does.
Totally.
I've always kind of lumped this in with all or nothing thinking, and as an example of how to lean into it, because in all or nothing, we tend to highlight how it really gets in our way with ADHD brain wiring. But this model, the moderator versus abstainer, I feel like is a good example of how we can lean into black and white thinking. And so as an abstainer, which is what I am, I'm going to share some examples of that. And I have an example of a moderator and just how it looks different.
Yeah.
So I practice intermittent fasting, which Becca, put a pin in that, because I keep meaning, and I don't know if I have it in my list of topics for the podcast, but that's something I do want to talk about.
Yeah.
I've been intermittent fasting for over 3 years now. And what I have learned is knowing I don't eat after lunch, period. I finish my lunch, which I'm typically done between 1:30, the latest 2:00 in the afternoon. And that's it.
Yeah.
I don't eat anymore. It's lovely. It's completely liberating. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go, oh, should I have blank, blank, blank? Maybe just, oh, I'm kind of hungry. Would it be okay if I had to? I don't know. I just don't eat. So I abstain completely. I don't have to think about it. I find it completely freeing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an example. I thought of it as all or nothing, but I like this framework of moderator versus abstainer. I had a neighbor that's a good friend of mine in Texas who I remember I bought, because they had buy one, get one free. This used to be a more popular thing. Now it's like buy one, get one 10% off, or buy one, get one half off. It used to be buy one, get one free. And it was almond M&Ms, and it was like the family size bag. So not like a single, but like a decent size bag of M&Ms. And the almond M&Ms were like such an indulgence. And she had introduced them to me. So I bought one, get one free, and I gave her a bag. Well, I remember I went to her house. It was probably, I don't know, let's just say it was a week later. Let's just like not even, I'd like to think it was a month later, but let's just say it was a week later. Yeah. I knocked on her door and she had an M&M in her hand. I said, did you get some more almond M&Ms? She was like, same bag that you gave me, which my bag was long gone, which is why I like to say it was a month, but let's be honest, my bag was gone within maybe 2 days. Maybe. Because once I have one, I can't stop. They're there. I waste a lot of energy thinking about them and trying to be like, oh, you already had a handful, Patty. Probably shouldn't have more, but they're right there. So I go get more. It's my rule for why I don't have Oreos in the house, because I'm going to want them. She told me, she goes, no, I just have, I can't even say it out loud. I have 3 a day. Like, what?
That's it.
That's a thing. You can have 3 almond M&Ms a day, and then that's it. When I put it through this moderator abstainer framework, it makes perfect sense. Clearly, she's a moderator. She could have 3 a day and decide that's all she was going to have and not think about it again.
Yeah.
I would waste all of my energy and willpower trying not to go back and have more M&Ms. So that's like, I just thought that example was really funny because it illustrates a clear difference between a moderator's approach to the family size bag of the almond M&Ms and a abstainer's approach, which clearly I'm going to have them all. The other example I wanted to highlight is in smoking. So back in the day, Becca, when I was a teenager, I smoked.
Yeah.
My best friend and I both started smoking together on the same day. Of course, as best friends do.
Of course.
Never intending for it to become this thing that we became addicted to. Well, I quit pretty quickly after I started, within like a year or two, I no longer smoked. And I know from my experience, if I tried to have even like a cigarette, I would start smoking again. Like it was like,
Yeah.
I couldn't just have one or I know people that can smoke when they drink and no other times. Yeah, exactly. That wasn't me. If I started smoking, I was going to smoke. My best friend could have one cigarette after dinner a day. And that was it. And did that for years. And I was always like, what? How? Like it didn't make any sense to me. So a lot of times when I've read about this model, since I learned about it, it ties to food, but I just wanted to share that example because I also think it lends itself into other examples that are also all or nothing, black and white kind of areas, but food seems to be the place where I see this used the most. So I just share this as a tip and a tool for you to use to think about, if you're an abstainer, what can you do to support yourself and lean into it? And if you're a moderator, how can you lean into it so it's working for you? And the quote that I want to share here is, it's somewhere. Here it is. For an abstainer, 99% abstinence is unbelievably difficult, but 100% abstinence is easy. So that is so true. So if you're an abstainer, what would you lean into and give yourself permission to cut it out completely, or put really nice structure around? So in my example of my intermittent fasting, I don't eat after lunch. One day a week I do, but it's a set time and I know when that is. Otherwise, I don't eat after lunch, and it just takes all of that energy and effort for me having to decide off the table. I don't have to worry about it. So if you would want to use this to support you, really conserve that energy, take out all of the willpower that you're trying to exert to follow through with your plan or abstain or moderate, whatever it is that you are, lean into it, use it. That's my ADHD friendly tip for today. All right. And I'm going to build on that because I'm going into another, are you this or are you that? And our main topic today is starter versus finisher. So we talked about moderator versus abstainer. Now we're going to talk about starters versus finishers. So again, I'm going to ask you to just explore as I share what this is and see if you're a starter or a finisher. All right. So this idea comes from Dr. William Dodson. And I learned about this at an ADHD conference back in 2016, like it was a long time ago, but he talked about it in the model of implementer finisher partners. And so he talked about implementers being very common amongst people who have ADHD. And he said they are idea people. We have lots of half-finished projects laying around, because once a problem is solved, or once we've mastered something, or we've learned, how to do something, it no longer has the interest or the novelty that it had when we started. So we tend to dive in. It's so interesting, exciting, and then we leave it when it no longer has that, because we've either learned everything about it or done it and we have no interest in doing it again, or we've started it and gotten to a point that it's like, oh yeah, I can see where this is going and I no longer have an interest in it.
Yeah.
And so the solution is to find a finisher, to find somebody whose strength isn't in creating and innovating, it's in finishing. And there's lots of finishers out there. So partnering with them, and this is Dodson's model, is really complementary because you're each using each other's strengths to get things done. Okay. I take this model and I find this applies in places other than kind of big projects and big things that we start and have finish. It can also be simple everyday things. So I'm going to tie it back to an example we used before about painting a room.
Yes.
Right. So it might be that you start painting a room, then once you get everything up, you just kind of like misjudged how much time it would take or how much energy you would need, and you lose your interest. It's like, yeah, oh my gosh, I still have to do all of this. And that took so long, I'm done. So it might be, I like to prep and tape, but I don't want to paint. So that might be a good partner with somebody that doesn't want to do the prep, but they love the painting. Right. So it's like partnering up with somebody that allows you to move something and get it checked off without you being the one that starts and does it and finishes. And the other thing is the finishing part is often a lot of little details. So if you think about even like the painting, we might like to like slap the paint up there, but we don't want to go around and peel off the paint and, kind of clean up the little drips of paint, clean up all of the tarp, close up the paint, put things away. We tend to like leave everything. So maybe the walls look great, but the room is a bomb for a long time because we don't want to come around and do all of the finishing steps to get it the furniture pushed back, everything, finished,
Done.
done. We like to start, but we don't like to
Okay.
finish. So I tend to use starter finisher, but it was really inspired by when I heard about this implementer finisher partnership.
Interesting.
So I wanted to share some more kind of everyday examples. But before I do that, do you have a sense of, are you a starter or are you a finisher? And you could be both. It's pretty rare for somebody to have both skills, but you might find like, I like to finish certain things, but most of us are stronger in one area.
Yeah, I think I'm able to finish things quite easily. I don't know
So
if
if
I really
I'm
starting it. Yeah, because then I think of all the work that goes into it, but then once I'm in it, I'm good and I can finish it easily.
Interesting. So if somebody starts something, you'd be happy to come in and be like, oh, I can wrap that up for you.
Totally.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a good thing for me to know too. That is not my strength.
Back and forth.
Not my strength. All right. So some examples, these are kind of like everyday examples. Maybe you're good at, this is a me example, clearly, packaging something up and putting the address on it, right? So maybe you're going to mail a gift and you get it in the box and you put the address on it, but you'd struggle to get it to the post office. So that would be a finisher task. Maybe you like to plan a party, again, a personal example. Maybe you like shop. I even like setting up parties. I don't like running the party and I don't like cleaning up after the party. I'm done. I just want to set it all up and it's fun. And then I'd love to sit back and watch, but I don't want to be involved in that part. Maybe you like to make dinner, but you don't like to clean up after dinner. That could be the finisher, right? So you don't mind cooking, but you don't want to deal with the mess that it makes. You might like to wash laundry, maybe even fold it, but you don't want to put it away. So you've got lots of like laundry baskets with clean clothes piled in there, but you really struggle to get them put back in drawers or hung up. That could be a good finisher partnership. And then my most recent example for my celebration, maybe you like to write thank you notes, or you can get that part done, but you're not going to get them in the mail. That's where I partnered with my daughter. She wrote them and I committed. That was where I came in as a finisher, even though it's not a strength. And that's what I want to highlight here. There might be areas that, like, I don't like to cook, so I'm not a good finisher, but I will clean up because I hate cooking so much. So that's an area that I can fill the role of finisher, even though that's not my strength. And I don't like cleaning up, but I prefer cleaning up to cooking.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll do it. Just like the getting the cards in the envelopes and stamped and addressed and in the mailbox. I prefer that to writing. And because I have such of a sense of meeting a social expectation of getting thank you notes mailed, even though, my youngest is, a high school graduate, technically an adult, should be able to do this on their own. I know the expectation for me to expect them to write them out and then also write the address and put the stamps, and it's not going to happen. Like, that's going to be such a big that I'm like, I'll partner with you. You write them out. I'll get them in the envelope, stamped, addressed, and gone. And so it might be that you tend to be a starter, but you can finish certain things because the finishing is so much less painful than the starting around something you don't like. So some strategies. If you struggle in some places, either to start like Becca or to finish like me. And again, remember, you can swap depending on what the task is. So it might be identifying like, what is it about this? I always struggle with, I get to this certain point and I never can get finished, or I always struggle to start, but once somebody gets it to this point, I can finish. It's how do I look for that and use it? So one is body doubling, that lovely partnership where the person doesn't even have to be helping. They could just be in the same space with you. And I've shared how I did this even with painting. Somebody's there talking to me, I could paint forever because it turns it into a social thing. I exercise more easily if I go for my walks and I can talk to someone. I don't remember I'm walking. I can walk on the treadmill for an hour and not even think about it because I'm distracted. So that's a nice body double. Like, they don't have to be doing it with you, but them being there, you can kind of tap into that energy and use that to work. Another is accountability partner. So it could be that, like with the example of cooking, I partner with my husband and be like, if you're willing to cook, I will come behind you and clean up, just not Christmas night.
That makes sense.
Not doing it.
That makes sense.
And then the other is outsourcing those finishing tasks. So it might be, what I can do, maybe I can prep the room, but I don't want to do the actual painting. So I've even had this happen where we actually ironically had this where we got our house painted a few years ago, the inside, and we had wallpaper and there were all these different quotes. And for whatever reason, the wallpaper in my room was like almost like had like seams. And because once we got the quote, we knew we were going to do it. I pulled one down and I was like, I could save this. It was like $350 just to remove the wallpaper. And I was like, I'm just going to take it all off. And it was so much fun and so sparkly. I was like, I'll do that. So it was like, I look around, I'm like, what could I do to make this even more affordable that I could start, and then you come in and finish it and clean it up. So those are just some 3 kind of overall strategies. If you're a starter or a finisher and you have strategies that work for you, please post them in the comments. We'd love to hear what works for you. Or if you try this and you find something that works for you, we'd love to hear your experience of either whether you use the abstainer versus moderator or the starter versus finisher. What works for you, share it. We all learn from each other and can build on our toolboxes by your examples. So please share them. And that's it for this episode, Becca.
Woo!
Again, this is episode 92. So for any information on this, check out the show notes for episode 92 or post in episode 92 if you have something to share. I started with a celebration at the top. Youngest graduated, all 4 kids done high school. Oh my gosh, I feel so old. But thank you notes also in the mail. Not that that's a bigger celebration,
It's a good one,
but
though.
it is a good one. And then my ADHD friendly tip for this week, using your awareness of if you're a moderator or an abstainer, literally just leaning into what type you are and using it so that you can make getting something in your life done with more ease. And same thing with our topic, which was starter versus finisher. If you're a starter, who can you partner with to finish? If you don't have a finisher partner or a starter partner, what could you do? Body double, accountability partner, or outsource to make that work more easily for you. We tend to just kind of sit and judge ourselves. And this is a place I really want you to break out of that and shift your perspective to, oh, I'm really good at starting things. Where can I find a good finisher? And it's just allowing somebody else's strength to come in and support yours. Next week, Becca, I'm kind of leaning into the summer heat. I'm going to be talking about seasonal affective disorder, SAD, summer type. It's a thing. I can't wait to dive in and just share some information because I have been talking about this being a thing for years and years and years. And I'm so excited that there's some evidence that really supports it.
Awesome.
So I'm going to share that next time. As always, check out my website, adhdfriendly.com, for tons of resources and information on things that can support you to start your personal owner's manual to capture the things that work more in your life. And you can remember them and rinse and repeat. Keep using them moving forward. Until next time, tally ho.